The B-21 Raider may be one of the most secretive aircraft in the world. But in 2026, the most important story may not be what this bomber can do. It may be how fast the United States can build enough of them to matter. In February, the Air Force announced a plan to increase annual B-21 production capacity by 25%. The agreement uses $4.5 billion in previously approved funding to accelerate deliveries. That immediately raises a bigger question. Why is Washington pushing the Raider faster now? To understand that, start with the bomber the B-21 is meant to follow. The B-2 Spirit proved that a large stealth bomber could penetrate heavily defended airspace and deliver long-range strike capability. But the B-2 also exposed a major weakness. Only 21 were ever built. That means one of America's most specialized bomber capabilities has always existed in very small numbers. The B-21 is supposed to change that equation. The Air Force says it plans to acquire at least 100 Raiders. That is not just a replacement program. It is an attempt to turn stealth bombing from a scarce capability into a much larger force. The idea behind stealth is easy to misunderstand. Stealth does not make an aircraft invisible. It is designed to make detection and tracking far more difficult. That matters because modern air defenses do not rely on a single radar or a single missile. They work as networks. A stealth aircraft is designed to make the job of those defensive networks much more difficult. That is the logic that shaped the B-2, and it is still central to the B-21. At first glance, the Raider looks familiar. Its flying wing shape clearly echoes the B-2 Spirit, but the resemblance can be misleading. The B-21 was designed decades later, with a strong emphasis on maintainability, adaptability, and future upgrades. The Air Force has confirmed that the aircraft uses an open systems architecture. In simple terms, that means new sensors, software, and other capabilities can be integrated more easily over time. That matters because the Raider is expected to serve for decades. The threats it may face 20 years from now will not look exactly like the threats of today. And there is something else the Air Force is trying to change. It is changing the way the bomber is tested. In September 2025, a second B-21 flight test aircraft arrived at Edwards Air Force Base in California. That gave the test program more capacity to evaluate mission systems, weapons integration, sustainment, and maintenance. Then, in 2026, an operational test pilot flew the Raider alongside a developmental test pilot much earlier than would traditionally happen. The point is not simply to fly more sorties. The goal is to bring developmental testing and operational evaluation closer together. In other words, the people checking whether the aircraft works as designed are working earlier with the people evaluating whether it will work in a real mission. That sounds like a small bureaucratic change. It is not. Major military aircraft programs can lose years when design, testing, production, and operational feedback move in separate lanes. The B-21 program is trying to compress those lanes without treating speed as an excuse to ignore risk. That is one reason the 2026 operational pilot milestone matters. It shows that the Raider is moving beyond basic flight testing and deeper into the question that ultimately counts. Can this aircraft become a dependable combat system? But even a successful test program does not create a bomber fleet. Factories do. Supply chains do. Trained crews and maintainers do. Bases do. And this is where the 25% production increase becomes so important. The challenge is no longer just proving that Northrop Grumman can build the B-21. The challenge is building enough aircraft at a sustainable pace to create the force the Air Force says it needs. You can see that transition happening at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. Ellsworth is planned as the first main operating base for the Raider and the location of its formal training unit. In July 2026, the Air Force announced the completion of the first major B-21 facilities there. Those projects include specialized maintenance infrastructure designed to support the new bomber. The aircraft is still in testing, but the ecosystem required to operate it is already taking physical shape. That is a major sign that the program is moving from development toward fielding. There is also a recent mission that explains why long-range stealth bombers still matter to American planners. During Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025, 7 B-2 Spirits took part in a much larger American operation against Iranian nuclear facilities. The Pentagon said roughly 125 American military aircraft were involved overall. The B-2s were not operating alone. They depended on a much wider network of supporting aircraft, intelligence, communications, and other military assets. And the belief in a thing makes it happen. That is an important correction to the popular image of a stealth bomber as a lone aircraft doing everything by itself. Modern air power is a system. The bomber is one part of that system, even when it is the part that attracts most of the attention. The B-21 is being built for that same reality. It is not a magic aircraft. It will not make air defenses irrelevant. And much of its true performance remains classified. The Air Force has not publicly released a complete picture of its exact range, stealth performance, sensors, or mission systems. So when you see extremely precise B-21 specifications online, some of those numbers are estimates rather than confirmed facts. What we do know is more useful. The Air Force describes the Raider as a long-range, highly survivable, penetrating strike bomber capable of both conventional and nuclear missions. And the service wants at least 100 of them. That brings us back to the question at the beginning. Why accelerate production now? One answer is simple arithmetic. The United States is trying to retire aging bombers, preserve long-range strike capacity, modernize its nuclear forces, and prepare for operations across enormous distances. The Indo-Pacific makes those distances especially important. A future crisis there could place heavy pressure on bases, support aircraft, communications, and aircraft that must operate far from home. A long-range stealth bomber gives American planners another option in that environment. But an option only matters if enough aircraft exist to use it. And that may be the biggest challenge facing the B-21. Building a cutting-edge bomber is an engineering problem. Building 100 or more is an industrial and budget problem. The Air Force can increase production capacity. It can build new facilities. It can integrate testing earlier. But Congress still has to fund the fleet year after year, and industry still has to deliver it. The Raider was designed to be difficult to detect. The program itself is becoming much easier to see. A second test aircraft is flying. Operational testers are entering the cockpit earlier. Production capacity is being expanded. Ellsworth is preparing for the first operational aircraft. Piece by piece, the B-21 is moving from a classified development program toward a real bomber force. So the most important question may no longer be whether America can build the B-21. It may be how many Raiders the country is willing to buy and how quickly it can field them. Do you think the Air Force's minimum goal of 100 B-21s is enough for the missions it could face in the coming decades? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy clear, fact-based coverage of military technology and defense news, hit the like button and subscribe to Defense TV. There is a lot more coming.